Is there a countdown?
If by chance you are dreaming right now, wake up!
Welcome to Horror Night!
Welcome everybody to Horror Nights. Hope everybody's staying spooky tonight. It's Thursday. You know the place to be. We got the one and only Ken Volok with us tonight. Welcome. Hold on, your mic is muted there.
It's muted?
Now it's not. Now it's unmuted.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Even
Happy to
silent.
have you.
Can work
You
out
know.
silent as well.
Yeah,
I'll hold it
so if people don't know, you're an actor and now a director, right? You're directing a film, putting together your own
in
project.
post-production on it. Yeah, just finalizing the sound and making a few trims and rearrangements. Day of
But
Wrath.
starting though, you started as an actor. You started in
I started as
performing
an actor and then started doing a lot of directing, then went back to acting.
Oh, so you've been kind of back and forth.
Yeah, I normally don't tell when I'm auditioning. I don't tell people I've directed because I don't want to scare them. Because you have those some people who are like, oh, well, I directed, and then they'll walk onto somebody else's set. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't want you to kind of like they don't
I
want you to kind of overtake it or put your own spin
right.
on it.
And believe me, I am so happy often just to be an actor. That's all I have to do is show up and be and do my job. I don't have to worry about everybody else showing up and
and doing
all
theirs.
that jazz. And
Yeah,
I can just show up, do my thing, and so.
It's kind of you get to do these fun roles, and I do look at roles as being fun without the stress of everything else that entails making a film.
I only have to go to my audition. I have to audition 100 people, which is like the most grueling thing. I mean, it's funny you meet people and stuff, but I mean, it really is grueling auditions. I learned to start using them to like actually start playing with like how I'm actually going to shoot the actual scene. And it's a good way to like, I don't know, kind of rehearse your camera movements and stuff.
Because you're seeing it over and over and over again.
Exactly. And it gives you a chance to really work with the people you're auditioning to see how you can work together, what the chemistry is, how to communicate with them.
Now, have you always been in horror?
Well, I've started off in horror as a fan, and I think my first concepts of making a movie were definitely horror related. But I mean, I branched out, and I've done all kinds of different stories, comedies, romantic comedies, gangster films, all kinds of, and a lot of stage as well.
Do you have a preference over one over the other, or?
I don't have a genre preference as an actor, and when I'm making a movie, I just let it become what it's going to be. Like when I was making Day of Wrath, that was actually inspired by somebody else's comedy, but I liked what they had done of making Woody Allen's Manhattan Murder Mystery. I liked how he had made Hitchcock happen to real people, or at least real people in that milieu that he's in, right? And so I decided, well, what kind of public domain story can I put in my and kind of have that's really fantastic and over the top, but put it in a real setting and have real people kind of react how real people would react to it. And obviously it's Dracula I chose, but in the Bears as like the MacGuffin, there's a lot more happening. I think it's more about mob violence and vigilantism and stuff, ultimately, and in the context of a horror film.
And I think we're seeing that a lot. I mean, we've seen movies now out like Sinners, which is like a whole subplot within a major plot, and you can take it in many directions.
Yeah.
And we're kind of seeing that a lot of messages, which used to be shown maybe through comedy and maybe through action or maybe through others, are now getting shown through horror more.
I think maybe it's because like the world. I mean, the culture events are just so horrifying that they just seem like monsters.
Yeah. No, I totally but I mean, I always think of film as a great medium. It's like it's another form of art, but it's a great way to spread message. It's a great way to spread awareness. You can do different films. Horror back in the day. They wrote tales to scare children into doing not
Yeah.
doing or doing this or not doing that. And you have movies out there like Megan is Missing, which is a fine tale of don't go fucking around on the internet,
Uh-huh.
and all these other films. It's like it can be used to kind of teach or push a gender or push away from a gender.
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like the James Whale films, they were very involved, like perhaps in like supernatural kind of. Well, I mean, Frankenstein is supernatural, or is he super science? I guess in a way. The first time I saw Frankenstein, I was actually in the hospital, and the day before I was going to have a surgery, and so I like cried. I
Oh
cried like
yeah, I would have been scared. That would have been scary for me.
yeah, but I think the movie that really had the first major impact on me is definitely the 1933 King Kong. I think a lot of people who have ended up making films, it seems like a lot of people say it's the 1933 King Kong. And it's definitely that for me because it got. I mean, like, how did they do that? And I think too, like, a lot of times, like now the magic is not there in the movies. You don't think, well, how did they do that? How did they do that? Because even if they didn't use computers, you just can't help but assume they used a computer, even if this is
Yeah,
a
like
model.
even movies like Jaws. I mean,
Yeah,
you look what they did to make a mechanical shark that now today would be just a VFX thrown together that would have
yeah,
no meaning. They went through a lot of trouble to, with shot magic and film cinematic magic to make that thing look real.
yeah. And I think too, part of the reason it does look real is even though it might look fake, is because there's actually something in front of the camera. It's not just zeros. It's like there's something in front of the camera, and you can just tell more often times than not.
Yeah, because some things you can kind of tell have been green screened in, so it kind of loses that.
Yeah,
Well, there's something there, yeah, maybe, yeah, but it's done. This is made in a studio, and there's
mm,
shots in that you can feel like they're on the water. This wasn't in a studio in a fake boat on a green screen. They're on a
right.
boat filming this thing.
Hmm.
And I mean, I think there's still a whole generation of people that won't go in the water because of that film. Now, it might not be the best
Yesterday,
horror, like
yeah,
yeah, like that. And it might not be the biggest horror film. Maybe now it's considered creature feature or whatever, but it still had that cinematic impact.
I guess Grizzly would go in that creature feature category. Is that film Grizzly?
Yeah,
Yeah, the Jaws with fur claws or something. Claws, they were nicknaming it.
but I mean, even old classics like Creature from the Black Lagoon. I mean, at one point were scary to people. They scared people. Now it might be more of a cinematic history or more of something less. But these things scare, like the old H.G. Wells. People thought, we were getting invaded by aliens. I mean,
Yeah.
you
It's-
know,
The
it,
first
it,
movie that
it
really truly terrified me, though, I think was Romero's Night of the Living Dead. I was maybe 7 when I saw it, and I was hiding like behind furniture watching it, and like I would crawl beneath windows at night in case there were ghouls out there. And to this day, I still in the back of my head, or even like purposely kind of like when I'm moving into a new place, I go, is this place zombie proof? Could zombies get in here? I know it's silly, but it's just
oh yeah, but you never know. I mean,
it's something that stuck with me.
zombies. I mean, I
Romero,
think there's a lot of people out there that
Romero had like a budget of $100,000 or something. He made that maybe less.
it did, and it was in a genre that was very new at the time. People just think, oh my God, you got to realize all these millions of zombie movies that came after that.
Right.
Those zombies are different than any other zombies. Like, for instance, even like Return of the Living Dead, those zombies are vicious.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to, walk, talk, do all this other stuff, run. But George Romero's zombies were like the first zombies that everybody modeled the zombie after, and then after that, everybody started making zombie films.
Uh-huh.
But
I
that really
I
wasn't a
like the zombies
genre.
because they're not all super like powers and jumping and stuff. You know what
No,
I
they
mean?
were just
World
normal
War Z
kind of
was good.
dronish.
Yeah, but I like they seemed like they were dead, but just kind of like mechanically, like I mean, however they had been brought back to movement, animation. Yeah, but
But
it's like that's why like you see people. David Lynch was right. You just make your. I guess we can use words. You just make your movie, but you look for try to do a movie that you can do on whatever budget it is, where it's nothing. You don't plan like some fantastic car chase that you can't really pull off. Well, but you just make it. It's a good.
well, when did you make your first film? What made you even want to make your first film?
Oh, I take well, 1933 King Kong. It rolled from there. Just and of course, I started out like exploring horror films, but then of course, I branched out into like other time periods and countries and artists and genres and stuff. But I just love making movies. I'm very lucky. I got to learn on film, so I got to shoot on film, and I
Yep.
got to edit on film with and without sound. And really, there's nothing like it having the piece of film in your hands. And I got to the point where I could just like look at it. If I didn't have to worry about seeing sound, I could just look at it. Here and there, just chop it in.
It's so
I mean,
much
it's in
different
my
than the
blood.
digital age. It's different. I
Yeah,
mean, as much as it's fun to sit in an application and do all this, there's just something about physically holding the media, like
I
a
love
picture.
the smell of it.
Taking a Polaroid picture compared to a digital photo.
Yeah,
You're holding it, you're looking at it, you feel it. It's physical. I'm a big still today. I mean, I don't. I mean, what I make some short films and such, and I plan on doing more. I don't own any physical media like that, but I do prefer physical media over digital. I try to buy the Blu-rays, DVDs, VHS releases if they still got them. Because I'm a firm believer in that whole thing. I grew up working at video stores
oh cool.
and and just again, new releases on a movie, the hype night, Friday night, people coming in renting these films, people talking about films.
That was
You know
great
that
about the
that
video stores because it wasn't like the algorithm. Oh, you saw this, you must like this, and you might have hated the thing. When you went to the video store, yeah, you would go to the new release rack, but then you go, through other aisles, and something might catch your eye, or you hear people talking, or somebody, you know what I mean? There was more chance of discovery as opposed to well, you liked oatmeal yesterday, you'll like oatmeal today.
Yeah, and just having somebody come up to you, hey, what do you recommend? Or just sitting there and talking about, because sometimes they'll talk in return something like, I love this film, I hated this film, and you just get people's ideas, and it was a more time where people were able to connect, because people
Hmm.
connected over the media. Cinema, same thing as going to a cinema, people connected. They leave the theater and say, wow, that was a horrible movie, or that was great. It's becoming less and less as we, go towards this digital age. People are watching things at home. People are ordering it for $20. They're bypassing the physical stage.
It's
And
a
with
funny
it,
thing. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna
Uh,
say, with it, they're bypassed, the actual human phase of it is, talking over these things, talking about them.
hmm
And I think that's the real loss, and with it, because when you own that physical tape, back in the day, you would say, "Hey, give it to your friend, watch this, let me know what you think about it."
Right.
You would tape trade, you would, tape off the
To
TV. Your
like make
favorite horror movie came.
like little montages, like one for Mother's Day, one for Halloween, for of, clips from different films. And it was a good thing I could easily do with two VCRs. It was fun. But
Well, yeah,
people used to rent and buy Super 8 like editions of like say Earthquake or something like that. They used to sell them, or I don't know if you could rent them, but you could buy them at stores.
yeah. And I love seeing that too. Like I just recently picked up some, Texas Chainsaw thing, Chain Reactions. It's a documentary, but it came with like 8 versions of the film, different grades, 8 millimeter, 16
Oh,
millimeter, VHS versions,
wow,
and they
that's
all have I watched them all because they all have different color, and with all the different color and different texture, they all look
hmm
a little bit different.
hmm yeah.
And little seconds shaved off here and there make all the difference in a film sometimes too. You don't realize that, but it does.
It's
And I love that part of film. I
your eye
love that
sees
part
every
of it.
frame, even if you don't realize you're seeing. You see that. So if there's like something on flash frame, you see it, and that's like somebody like Freakin would use flash frames for that kind of subliminal kind of effect.
But that's why Exorcist works so well. I mean, because we did see these kind of images flash in and
And the
flash
sound
out.
is amazing on that film, I think.
Yeah,
It's very like it's not so many films just are wall to wall music when they don't necessarily need to be in it, and will take me out of it if it's like I mean relentless. There's like no use of silence. Like a good use of silence would be like in Hitchcock's Marnie or something.
yeah. I think that's I think
uh,
that's something you learn. Like even in my first short film I did, I relied heavy on the soundtracks. I think I was afraid of the silence. I was afraid of the natural
I
ambience
think
and what
that
was going to happen.
I was like that too.
And then I kind of got used to. I'm like, you know what? I can be more I can be more natural. I don't need these backtracks. I can just add a slight ambience or a slight rumble or something, but it doesn't need to be overly done. I don't need this musical piece in the back to kind of carry the story.
Right. And I did the same kind of like I had the same kind of issue when I did was writing my first sync sound film, and like all of a sudden I was like having to write this dialogue, and all of a sudden there was like too much dialogue, and I ended up like cutting up like 2/3 of it. But I mean, there's like, oh my god, suddenly I have to like dealing with it was like 1929 all over again. You know what I mean? I knew like there are lessons I'd learned, but all of a sudden I was confronting the challenge of not just working in pictures, but words and of course sound.
So when you first were making films, it was much different. I'm taking than making films now, as like you said, you were working
Oh
on
yeah.
physical media.
Yeah,
You
we're
have
talking about making like things with digital. There's two things I do not miss about working on film. The first one is like digging for individual frames on the carpet, like a coke addict or something. Because you make and then suddenly you realize you're out of sync. And in order for like if they're cutting a negative, right, they have to have like, you can't just say like, it has to be there. And so suddenly you're like looking like, yeah, it's just, I don't miss that. And I don't miss having to pay like $300 per dissolve. You know what I mean? Because they used to you have to go for a physical dissolve, you have to have one reel of film that's cut, and then they overlay the two like that, and an optical printer, and then that's how you get your dissolve. And that's a process that somebody has to do, and that's why it costs money. But you have A roll, and then you have a B roll, and then you might switch back to your A roll again. It's just like, that's kind of maddening. But
what's up, Toxic Wick? What's happening? How you doing tonight? Thanks for tuning in.
oh, I didn't know you were talking to.
Oh, somebody jumped in.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think that the digital has made it though more accessible for more people to want to make films, be able to make films. Because let's face it, the equipment that you used was very expensive. The average home user couldn't do it. Unless you used, a
Interesting.
VHS recorder, you weren't
The
doing
most
much.
expensive part was actually processing and printing. I could get like a roll of 16 millimeter, like $20 color. That's not, you know what I mean? But it was, yeah, and I could even just have the negative process. It was then having the printing was always what
But
like.
you need the camera too, and
Yeah,
not everybody had the camera just sitting at home.
no.
Whereas today you can go out, you can buy a black, Magic
People use their
4K,
phones.
6K. People use their phones. You can buy things for under a couple thousand dollars to get you a cinematic camera with some lenses, and you can go out and do something.
Well, my first 3 films I shot on a 16 millimeter Bolex, and then I went to digital videotape, and I shot other people's things in actual high definition, but Day of Wrath I shot actually just digital video, and so it has that kind of raw look. Did you get a chance to look at it?
I did, and I did like
Yeah.
that. I did. I liked it
Yeah,
a
that's why
lot.
it has that look. But I like that raw look. I think that raw look works well for my story. And, you know what I mean? If I was trying to make something glamorous and that I don't think that look would work, but it works for my story.
No, and I think sometimes having the natural grime or even older, I find for some horror or older films like going the not crisp 4K version of something or like an older medium almost looks better. Like some horror movies look better in VHS form because the blacks were off, the things were a little distorted. It made it almost look scarier, and you could get away with more. Nowadays with the 4K cam, everything looks perfect. So like little mistakes get picked up very fast, where before everything blurred.
Yeah, yeah, because the rest, yeah, like when they were doing the first 4K scans of Mary Poppins, all of a sudden they could see piano wires nobody had seen for like 60 years. I mean, yeah, or even in The Invisible Man, to James Well, like they had, and it's a decision too when they're making these transfers, these which are going to be essentially new masters, right? I mean, it's there on the film, but people didn't see it for decades. So what do you do? You know, I mean, do you like erase it, or what do you do? And and I think that it should look like how it looked when it was released. And so if suddenly you can see a piano wire, then you know what I mean? Because they would have back then, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I think like even like Star Wars, if you look at what George Lucas did in that first trilogy, he knew there was imperfections in there. He just still put it out there, and then when he had the
You have
time,
there
the
has to
money,
be
and the
there's
technology,
a
he fixed it.
yeah, there's a point. I mean, and he had that luxury, but I kind of like the older versions better because they
I
have that
do.
meat that's solid. There's a weight when you see the
Well, I feel
ships.
like it's a movie rather than because again, I really like practical effects, right? I'm a practical effect person. Yes,
Yeah.
okay, lasers and stuff, that's one thing. We don't have that technology, but with some things, I like to see practical effects. And I think that, the beauty of what George Lucas did in the 70s and such was he used his budget of what he had, because it wasn't a lot of times, and he used a lot of practical effects, miniatures, and other things to create these grandiose worlds and explosions. And then when he had a computer, he went in and just added all this digital stuff, and it was like, that's cool, but I really like what you were able to do with little money and some plastic.
Hmm. And there's a joy. There's a real fun, like when you're doing these effect shots. I mean, they can be really hard work. I mean, often are, but there's a joy. There's just something fun. I love to me like filmmaking in a lot of ways is just a giant prank that we play on the audience. You walk in a door in one shot, and the next shot you walk into a room, and they're like months apart, and I mean,
Oh
really.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Like,
if you do it right, or even, but just like I just like the trickery. Is and you get that in live theater too, to some degree, but not to obviously what you can accomplish with film. I just like that.
well,
I mean,
film you
for
got
Day
more
of
to
Wrath,
hide.
it was
Film
fun.
you get more to hide. You only got to care about what's in frame, and the rest of the
Exactly.
room could be burning down. There could be nothing there. It could be wires, but as long as what's in frame looks like good, it's like, okay, that's it. Shot's good. Go.
I'm really proud. There's two scenes on Day of Wrath. One is a day scene that I shot at night, and it looks like day. And then there's another night scene that I shot in the daytime, and it looks like night. And it was just like, if I was able to control the light and like, everything that we talked about. But I like that. And like, um, I mean, to me, it's just like a private inside joke, or, to myself that I pulled it off, Yeah.
It's a cinematic magic. You're able
Yeah.
to do stuff that, you normally wouldn't be able to do. And kind of like you said, little tricks. A lot of times people don't realize, yes, you'll see this house in a movie, but guess
Uh,
what? Only the front of it was used because the rest of it was shot in somebody's basement a month later somewhere else.
um,
And, they just happen to just want to use the fancy front of the house because it looks better than wherever they were shooting at.
mhm.
And it all gets seamlessly put together though at the end, that you don't know, what's what, the viewer. Everything is perfect. It just works together. It blends. But movies aren't even made like that. You're filming scenes at different times. You're filming them at different spots,
Mhm.
and then the magic of editing puts it all together into
Yeah.
place.
I get hate mail for The Farm, but not because they didn't like that movie, but because they think I'm actually like running a cannibal farm or something. Is that nuts? Or
Really,
they think,
you
how can you
broke
kill
through
that
that
big?
fourth wall.
Yeah,
I was
how
gonna
could you
say
kill
that
that big?
I
What baby
enjoyed
did
the
I?
farm. I thought that was a different movie, but it was very reminiscent, of other movies I've seen. I forget the name of it, but had the lady from Porky's in it. Um, Hell
I,
something.
I don't know the ladies from Porky's. I'm sorry. I'm like,
Yeah, I forget the name. I'm bad with horror names, but I'm good with like story plots. But anyways, there was an older film, and
oh, you
I
have a
thought, like,
cannibal. Right.
Well, they were growing people's heads. They would take and kidnap people and put them and bury them in the
Oh,
ground.
I
But
saw that. Yeah, it's not Motel Hell or something like that.
yeah, it's
Perfect.
Motel Hell. There you go. There you go. You
With
got it. Yes.
Rory, what's his name? Rory something. Rory Calhoun.
Yeah, there you go. You
Yeah,
got it.
yeah. You're
It
wearing a
was a little bit
Cannibal
of reminiscent
Holocaust
in
shirt.
that, but it was even more darker, deeper, and I thought it was a good film. I watch a lot of films. I see a lot of films. I don't go in with a lot of expectations at all because every film is different.
Mhm.
I don't go in and say, I love this. I'm gonna love it. My favorite type of horror is probably more psychological, just because I've watched so many, slasher films or stuff that it just
It's an
doesn't get to me as
evolution.
far as scary.
And you start reading with, see Dick and Jane Run, and you can't stay with see Dick and Jane Run forever. You want to go deeper
Well, yeah,
as you get older.
and that's why I like horror though, because you have millions of subgenres underneath that you can just kind of play with. But I thought the film was done very, good. It was a dark film,
Yeah, it was fun to
and,
make.
I
I
mean,
auditioned for that film. I went in there. When I submitted, I I saw their casting notice. And I go, oh, yeah. There was one role that was like a very bit role. That sounds good. I could do that. And so I went in there, and they had already like decided to like they wanted to audition me for a bigger role. And I did. It was like the two scenes. It was like the first two scenes that I'm in that film, and that was it in the script, right? And then about a month later, one of the producers called me and said, "We've written 20 more pages for you. Are you interested?" And I became a lead. And so we went back to the locations and like shot more stuff, and it was that happens to me a bit. In films that my parts sometimes get bigger. It seems, but yay.
that's a good thing though, right? That means they
Oh
like
yeah,
you and they
very
want you
happy.
to do
Yeah,
more.
yeah, yeah.
But
That is
maybe because you're going in there with also that director's eye, you bring something unique to your characters that you present.
maybe
You
I don't.
know that
Yeah.
they see more potential in it or something.
Mm.
But was it hard to originally transition from going in from making a film? We're gonna go back to the farm in a minute, but from making films to jumping in and kind of losing some of that control. I know you said the
Oh,
easy parts, you don't
yeah,
have to worry about stuff,
yeah.
but was it a little weird on the other
I'm
end?
I'm totally versatile. I can go both ways. But I prefer I do prefer acting because that's what I really wanted to do growing up was acting. Um I mean just and I was kind of told that you can't, for my I was in a car wreck as a baby. And it was just kind of like you'll never, and I've ended up doing like so many things that I was told I was not going to be able to do. So yeah, fucking just do it. Just don't let people tell you can't. Yeah, because your mom
Well,
might.
I mean, that's true. I mean, we live in a world you can almost do anything, and it doesn't really matter. And maybe at one point society was that guarded, or
But
these
you know
things were
what? What
that
held me
gatekeep.
back
But
was my own self confidence. That having I suffered a bit of bullying and abuse growing up, and so that can work something on your self confidence. But I mean, once I really I got it. Once I said I was just going to do it, and I was confident in doing it, it happened.
and I mean, at the end of the day, you take that and I mean, you put it towards creativity. I mean, you might
Right.
have been, like I said, bullied and pushed around or whatever as a
And
young kid or or
and you know
growing
how
up,
I
but at the
escaped
end of the
all
day, you
that?
made films and you put stuff
Yeah,
out
and
there that
how I
they can't
escaped
do.
all that. But when I was experiencing all that was in art, was in film, and where my imagination took me away from it. And so I think too that's what helps me really as an actor and a director is I really hope I can empathize. I can put myself in your shoes or that person's shoes, and that helps me write scripts too because I can how would that person react? You know what I mean? It's not just my reaction. I try to say how would that person react? Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Empathy is very
you
important.
want your roles to feel different and your characters to be
I
different.
always like it different. Yeah, I definitely like to have each role be different. Yeah, like I played a 70-year-old man dying of cancer once, and I was on stage and a lot of makeup, um, but it was really interesting. I didn't realize how that character had taken over until the very last show, and all of a sudden I felt young and healthy again. But I didn't realize for weeks I was like feeling kind of like I was dying of cancer. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you just
I
take
was
on
like
these
trying.
roles.
yeah, I wasn't trying to do that off stage. I, give myself prep time before rehearsal and performance, of course. But I didn't really realize like how it had impacted me getting into this person off way from the theater, and
Well, you hear about it. I mean, like the guy from American Horror Story, he had to take a break because he just got too enthralled in that character.
which one?
From the season Cult, and you hear other actors, that get so enthralled in their character because let's face it, movies can be sometimes shot for like 6 months, so you're
Right.
the same character for 6 months,
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
and
Uh,
if you're the lead character, you're going in there full on, and sometimes you're doing all this research. If you're playing a killer, if you're playing somebody, you know, you got people out there playing Jeffrey Dahmer and stuff too, and all these other people, and so you have to study all this, and you're becoming this dark person for most of your days because you're working 16-hour days. It takes its toll, I think, on you, and at some point you got to find a way to kind of shut it off or to escape that even.
hmm, Did you see a double life Ronald Coleman plays an actor doing Othello, and he kills Shelley Winters on stage? Like,
Really?
sure, yeah. But I mean, that's like we were talking about, like acting, like getting into it. That's like the extreme, of course. But I think that's like what acting is, that balancing act. I mean, it's embodying, but it's still controlling it. It's not like this uncontrollable thing. Like suddenly you're just like not in control because then, well, you're not really acting. I mean, there's that Zen level where you're in it. The reactions are coming naturally, but I don't really like. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? It's
No,
like,
I mean, like I think depending on the film, and like some directors don't give out, the full, jumps or the full everything to the cast members, so they get legitimately scared on set and
uh,
in camera. Other, there's movies, it all depends how far you can go behind that camera to get the effect you want without breaking the law. I think
right.
that's the key right there. Is without breaking the
Or
law.
not even just breaking the law, but like take it. Like my first love scene, we got like no direction at all, and so it might have worked for my character, but it was very awkward because like, uh, I mean, I should have just talked with the actors, but I was waiting for like the director to tell us, or somebody like some sort of, what do you call them, like I don't know, love scene choreographers now. I would have thought like some like discussion of what was okay and not okay. And as far as I know, I didn't do anything that wasn't okay. But I think it kind of like, it was just very inhibiting. Like, I didn't want her to get the wrong idea that I was like taking advantage of a situation or something. You know what I mean? So that was just very, and I probably should have
And
said
I was,
something.
I was,
I
I
was
was actually
younger, and it
talking
was
to
my
another
first love.
actor,
Yeah.
and they were saying that love scenes are always kind of weird because sometimes, first of all, these people are strangers. You might have just met them like an hour or so ago, but also it's just you gotta kind of ask, what's acceptable, what can we do, what are we not gonna do, where are we
But I mean,
going?
yeah, I mean, if you talk about it and say like, okay, like put your hand on her breast, then she knows and she can say, oh, I don't want that to happen. You know what I mean? And so how do you fake it or whatever? Then you take it from there. Like have a vision. Tell us what you know what I mean. What I mean, because what I'm gonna do, like in an acting situation, which like when you're on a date, it's different because obviously like you just kind of let it flow, or there's, you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's more natural as in the date. This is gonna
You,
flow a certain way, but
yeah,
in acting, it's like, okay, we don't even know each other. But okay, now you want me to do this, and then you'll have some actresses that'll be like, no, I need to, they'll have a body double come in and do sex scenes, and they'll come in and do everything else.
yeah, and like again, there was one other instance where I should have asked for some direction, more choreography, or actually, because I did a fight scene, I got kicked in the mouth, and it was just like, oh my god, it was not good for my
No,
work.
I would assume that would hurt.
Yeah, but
To
again,
do
I
it.
knew I would go, and that one I was more experienced, so, and I knew going into this thing has been choreographed. Somebody could get hurt. I was like, and it turned out to be me because I knew better and didn't say anything. So,
Yeah.
so hey, aspiring actors always ask for direction. Choreographers, things, physical encounters, ask for direction.
Oh, for
Because I did
sure. I
other
mean,
fight scenes that I did not get, although I did get kicked in the helmet. I was wearing a helmet on this one film, Vendemia, and the actor kicked it too hard, and I thought, oh my god, I might have brain damage. But it was just a few hours headache, but it was scary. It was scary, and
no,
even then,
definitely.
that direction, but it was just a little bit too much force. You know what I mean? It was just, and we had done several takes where nothing happened, and then
No, but I think it's kind of hard because you got to make it look realistic, right, on set, and
oh yeah,
they want you to give you energy and passion, but you got to know exactly how much energy and passion they do without
yeah,
actually
it goes
doing
to
it.
like rolling, like like
Uh,
a double
I
line.
remember we shot a scene one time, and I was working with a friend. I'm supposed to, hit him over the head with this large twig, and we're just shooting, and the kid says shoot, and I go to hit him, and I didn't even realize the force, and I hear the clunk, and I hear the kid go, "Ow, fuck," and I'm like, "Okay, sorry about that." He's like, "Shit, okay, we're not gonna do that anymore." I'm like, "I'm sorry, I didn't know how much force." Nobody said any force or anything. It's like, so he's like, "We're gonna try that again, but I want you to just go, very light and just freaking, we can
When
speed
I
it up or we'll do something with it." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever."
and Dave at Raph, one actor actually did get punched, but only because he stumbled. Because it shot a couple of different scenes, shots, angles, and for reason he stumbled and like walked into the fist. That's just as the guy where we had choreographed it perfectly. So things beyond your control happened. Just the kid stumbled. You know.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, people don't really, I think that scenes aren't just about your voice; it's also
Yeah.
about your mannerisms. Where are your feet? What are your feet doing? What is your body doing? What's its actions doing? It's a whole thing. It's not just acting. Isn't just, well, these are my lines and let me read them.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's the worst. Yeah, we can hear the script. Like, they must be reading off the cue cards. Huh.
No, and sometimes I even like minimal scripts where they give the actors more creative control and say, "Hey, use where your strong points are and bring this character to life."
Yeah, there's a lot of value to like only having the actor say what is necessary instead of like go off on like long tangents about other stuff. That I find like those films, and I don't really feel like naming names or titles, but some films that are known for like dialogue, have, they kind of decrease in interest for me after a while. Like the first time I'll really like it, and then the second time I like, what I mean. But yeah, the conversation was fun the first time, but I already know, like, what I mean.
It should
It does,
almost be an extended cut of it, and everything else should have been cut down. And this is the
yeah,
show version.
yeah, because I think you propel the story. You know what I mean? And a lot of times too, I think it was just a good screen time filler to like we gotta make a feature. Yeah,
And
like
that's the thing. You want to make a feature, it's got to be a certain length. And if you don't have enough,
at least an hour. It has to be at least an hour.
and
That's
if
the
you
rule.
don't have enough,
But it's
well,
short. I
what do?
mean,
You fill it up with dialogue.
well, I mean, look at the Red Badge of Courage by John Huston, one of my favorite filmmakers. It's like what 58 minutes, but it's as long as it needs to be. No,
Well,
like
less is more, I think, on film too. And if you can do and achieve anything in a lesser time than drawing it out, then you
yeah,
got it. And let's face it, we're in a society where everybody's very busy. If I can sit down and give you an hour, that's great. I don't think I can give you 2.5 though. That's a long time
I'm
for
gonna
me to
give
stop.
half hours. You darn well better make it like a worthwhile 2.5 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or even 2-hour films sometimes could be hour and a half, and it's like,
Right, like those films that have like five endings. You know what I mean? Oh, and it's a great ending. It would have been a perfect film if it had ended there, but then it
boom,
went, and
and
then it
then it
went on.
went a little
Uh,
bit further, and then a little bit. And it's
yeah.
like, oh.
And then, and 40 years later, it's like, who cares? The original
Yeah.
problem was solved like 20 minutes ago.
Again, that's why I'm like, just cut it down and then do an extended cut for people that want to see
Yeah.
extended
Or
scenes.
even better, yeah, just make them special features. Yeah.
Yep, extra scenes, deleted scenes. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Because that's
Uh,
another philosophy of mine. I wanted Day of Wrath to be longer, but it wasn't good longer. So, like, it's as long as it's good, and that's the length it should be. The running time that it's good.
Well, I honestly I think like classic movies had some longer running times. And obviously, you had movies like Ten Commandments. It ran a long time. You
Yeah.
have things, but these were like almost masterpieces of movies, and people
I
rented.
know that the industry and that the U.S. industry was at such a height in terms of resources here and creativity. There was
Yeah,
obviously during the World War there was crunches, but in terms there was like a height of craftsmanship and caring and passion and it wasn't
but they almost said, okay, we're gonna put every movie is gonna be long. It's gonna tell this full length
but then
story.
everything had to be an epic after
And then it kind of slowed down, and people were like, okay, you know what? We need something for the cinema. We need somewhere that people can get in and out. We need something that people can watch, before they go to bed. We need something more marketable. So everything became shorter and shorter and shorter.
well, you can get more screenings in too with a shorter film per day if you
Yeah,
rent
that too.
it. Yeah. And that's probably the reason they eliminated shorts. Like, I still grew up. We still had cartoons, but we didn't get. I didn't get newsreels or like live action shorts or musical shorts or anything. But
No, but
I
I
like
mean,
at the
I
theater. We would
some
show shorts. We would show shorts.
yeah, and I mean, I honestly sometimes prefer short horror films just because you can watch a bunch of them, so it almost becomes anthology style where you can see a bunch of different films in the same time period. And sometimes these films only need a 20-minute spot to tell that story. It had
Right.
it been an hour and a half, I'd be snoring, but since it's 20 minutes, it's impactful.
Mhm.
But then
Yeah.
there's other times that I'm like, damn it, I wish that was a feature film because that's so good. And
Probably because you
sometimes they
really
take
like the
that.
characters for starters. You probably liked the characters and you like the world they had created. And yeah, it's like a really good book when it ends. Oh gosh, I wish it was longer.
But the good thing is about a short is you can always take that and expand it into a feature too.
Yeah.
Being the director, some of them actually will film features after it. It'd just be like, I'm going to hold on to this for a rainy
I could be
day.
wrong, but I think the farm was originally a short. I
Well,
think
what?
the farm was originally intended to
Yeah.
be a short film, and then they wrote more. So,
Well, I mean,
they made it.
just got 20 pages alone added to the film. I mean, it
Yeah,
made it longer.
yeah. I think they may have used what we had previously shot to get more financing, perhaps. Yeah, I don't
How
know.
was it? Was it fun being on set for that though? Was it fun
It
working
was
with
hot,
everything?
and there were rattlesnakes. But I
Oh,
mean, it was a fun shoot. It was an adventure. I like going places. I'm going to be going to Texas and doing a film, and I'm looking forward to that. I've never done a film in another state before, which sounds great, silly to be excited about, but it'll be fun. I like the adventure of going on the locations. So yeah, before I even lived in this area of Joshua Tree, I shot a couple of films in this area. There's about 27 gallons we shot in the Imperial Desert, and this place called Desert Center. And then we did the farm up in Idlewild, which
wow.
was and we were staying in this big I guess this big bunkhouse that in the film when the couple arrives at the hotel or that big building, that was actually where we were all sleeping and eating. It just redid that for that day's shoot to make it look different. But there are all these rooms like bunks and stuff. Like you could sleep 60 people in that place. Really, there was 10 bunk room.
Really?
But so yeah, I like going places to make a movie. It's fun.
I think that's some of the fun. People don't even realize that sometimes there is especially on location, that it's not. It's kind of just going and shooting. It's not always just actors coming in and these big trailers laying out. It's sometimes where
It doesn't have
people
to
are
be.
making sacrificing.
Yeah, when I was making Day of Wrath, I mean, for some big scenes, I did have a lot of crew, but we didn't have big trucks and stuff. Um, but for the more intimate scenes, oftentimes it was just me and the actors and an assistant. I mean, I didn't need any more people than that. Yeah, I just laid out the food and we shot the scene. We didn't need a whole. I think every person on the set has 15 minutes to your day. I really do. Yeah, and all those people are necessary. I didn't need them that day.
Yeah, and I think again that's the less is more approach where
But I was good too because there were more tighter scenes, and so I think it was better because I used some like real actors in Day of Wrath, and then people I just asked to do it that were interested in doing it, but didn't have any acting experience, and so I think not having a lot of people standing around like made it actually easier for those actors as well because there was less pressure. There was the people they're doing the scene with mostly, you know what I mean? Who they're supposed to be relating to. Not where I like that girl or I like that, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? They don't have a bunch of eyes staring at them. They just have people
yeah.
already know, you know.
No, and I think I've seen it. I go to a lot of horror cons and stuff, and I talk, and you see the panels and stuff, and a lot of them will be like, especially with intimate scenes, there might only be three people in that room. It might be the two actors, maybe
Uh,
the director, and then the cinematographer, whoever's filming, and that is it. They don't bring in the whole crew. It's not everybody sitting around watching these scenes
mm,
because it's awkward. It gets awkward for everybody, even the people acting, but it's also awkward for the director. It's awkward for everybody because you're directing things that normally you would have no say in doing because it's two other people's bodies doing things.
uh-huh. Yeah. Uh,
But even in horror, though, I mean, sex sells. Sex always sells. I think nudity sells. It's been that way since probably
in the
exploitation
original
films.
King Kong, we'll always go back to that, I suppose. They cut out. It was a pre-code film, and but then when they reissued it in 1938, they had to cut some things out, like a scene of Kong taking Fay Wright's clothes off and sniffing them. Now they're back in the film, but they had to chop that out. And there were scenes they lifted out of Frankenstein. If we want, stay on the horror thing, Um, but I forgot what our point. Oh, you're talking about eroticism and sex selling. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a natural. Sexuality is such a natural part of a adult human being that it's part of the human connection. And so, to relate to something sexually doesn't have to mean you're attracted, but it just gives a human element. You know what I mean? A human connection. We can all understand love, even if you're not attracted to the people on the scene. You can understand that they love each other, or should hope.
Well,
You
yeah.
get that idea from the actors.
Like I said, I mean, and sometimes it gets twisted. I get not twisted, but it gets spun into tales. Premarital sex was bad. So you would have all these people that were,
I enjoyed it.
partying and having sex, getting killed on a show and on movies. In the '80s and such. Like you'd have all these different things, but at some point, a lot of these scenes also would lighten the mood in certain movies as well. Other
Right.
times the sexuality is for other purposes, obviously, if it's, a more extreme film or, a more gruesome film or something, like Irreversible, for instance. You got a freaking crazy intense scene in the middle of the movie, and it's not for any other reason but to tell the story. It doesn't have to be comfortable. It just exists. And there's movies that way that you watch and it's like, okay, this is uncomfortable. And it doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be. If you're feeling uncomfortable, the movie's doing its job.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, it amazed me about Titanic that people, oh, the film made me cry. And I always used to think to myself, well, you just saw like 2,000 people die. I mean, that would make me cry. You know what I mean? Just, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, I
But
was
but but it's
surprised when they
funny the
feel like they
people
were
will.
feeling good about
But
life.
it's funny though. The people won't even think about. They're not even. If you ask them though, they won't even say they cried over the 2,000. They'll say they cried over the one person.
Yeah, it's
They
true.
forget about the other 1999 that died.
Uh,
It's just like,
um,
but that's one of those movies that hey, it was a long movie. It
but
wasn't
it
a
did it.
short
But it did
movie.
its job, though. The fact that it did make people cry. But you're right that
Yep.
they were only crying for Leon. But I guess we all cry for Leon.
But it's one of those movies. It might not again my favorite genre, but cinematically, it's a movie that I've watched several times because it serves a purpose. It has a good story arc, and it's shot very
It's
well.
very Fritz Lang in a lot of ways. Like the whole thing with the diamond and the gun was to me in a good way. Of course, I love Fritz Lang, but it was very Fritz Lang, that kind of tiger loose in the. You know what I mean? The shot like
Yeah,
this.
and it gave a different vibe to what was going on the ship.
Yeah,
Uh,
I like
and and it did a great. I mean, it's one of the things that it did. It did a great job with getting you to fall in love with the characters to the point that
yeah.
you were crying at the end over their death. If you can do that, then you succeeded.
Uh-huh.
You know, um, and that's not always easy because there's movies I'll watch and I know I'm supposed to be rooting for the good guy, and I'm just like, oh, I
Rooting-
hope they twist the ending, and I hope the bad guy kills him.
Yes. Uh,
Um, but I mean, again, like I said, I do like foreign film because of the bleak endings. I don't mind endings that aren't
uh,
cinematic Hollywood endings. They can end on a bad note. It's fine.
uh. I like. I'm a big Bergman fan, and Buñuel as well. And like actually learned a lot of camera trickery from Diego Vertov. Not personally, but like seeing his stuff and things you can do, and inspired me to do other things, and from there, and other projects, documentaries especially.
Yeah. And even that documentaries you can do a little bit different. I mean, they're shot differently and obviously than a cinematic film, but it's still the same premise of how you portraying it or how you showing. Because there's dark documentaries and there's happy documentaries. It's fucking you can it's all about what you're trying to portray and then the tone you want to portray it in. Because I've seen movies on the darkest subjects too, but they're portrayed in a way that's almost parody or comedy that you don't even know what you're watching.
Mhm.
You get desensitized very fast to the brutality because it's done in a funny way.
It's very interesting. At first time I saw Clockwork Orange, I was 12 maybe. I'm like, I I thought it was like, wow, scary. You know what I mean? Like, but seeing it older as an adult, it's very hard for me to watch because it's brutal and like what I mean. It's like one of those. Kubrick, of course, does his job well in any form.
Well,
But
I think as a kid too, like I don't know, watching violence, whether it be wrestling, whether it be Batman beating the shit out of the enemies, whether it be things like that where people are just beating each other and doing stuff. We don't look at it as I don't know. We just watch and be like, "That's awesome. That's a great scene. That's great." But like as we get adults, we realize like because we watch now
it really
news
just
and
happens to real
we
people. Yeah.
yeah we've seen it or we might have witnessed it. It's like wait a minute, this is kind of
Right.
realistic.
Yes,
You
yeah. I
know.
mean, in terms of like films with explicit violence, like, if, like I don't know. I've seen Dress to Kill so many times, and I'll watch it a million times more happily. I think it's a masterpiece, but I still like cringe like it. I mean, the elevator scene. It's just so well done, and it's just like horrifying. But I think it's horrifying. Then I can still watch it because Angie Dickinson's humanity is very much in that scene. She's not just a piece of meat being cut. You know what I mean? Like callously, like and like
No, for
just being
sure.
sold as hamburger.
No, and that's the thing. Sometimes, like I said, people from the outside will say, well, you're kind of, they'll even say to me, you're sick and twisted. You watch these movies over and over again. They're brutal movies, even movies like Martyrs and stuff. And
Uh,
it's like, well, I'm not watching it for the violence. You got to understand, I appreciate what they were able to get away with in front of a camera
uh,
because it's taking that camera to the extreme that makes films different.
uh-huh.
Everybody can do this, everybody can copy the last person on a camera and make it happen, but it will take the next person to kind of step out of the bounds or
And I
to
think that
push the limit that gets the film industry moving.
that's what, especially I think, an advantage when you don't have a big budget like that it pushes you. You have to be really. You have to do something different. You can't just like crank them out like sausages because then you're just gonna
No.
get out the sausage aisle. You have to make it something
And if you
else.
don't have a known actor, well, now you're not relying on the actors. If you don't have, big effects, then now you're not relying on that. So now you rely on story.
I when I'm on the other side of camera, I always promote my actors. You see like a lot, and this happens a lot too in like theaters, like live theaters. They'll like credit just the director and not the. I think every name that you put up there is at least 100 tickets sold because they have a friend and their friend. Oh, my friend is in. You know what I mean? But
And that's the thing. If they get promoted on it, whether it be a poster, whatever, they will bring that to
what's
their
that hurt?
friends.
It doesn't hurt to give somebody credit. It doesn't hurt to, you know what I mean? It's
No,
like
because at
it's
the end of the day, I mean, the director, yes, okay, we made the film, or you made the film, or
I know.
whoever made the film, but it takes everybody to put it together. You didn't
It's been
star in the
projects
film,
where I
you didn't
did
act.
so much, and but I thought it was ridiculous that my name over, you know what I mean? Just because I did a little bit of something, you know what I mean? It did, you know, I'm already just director. I'm already got it. They already know, you know what I mean? I must be involved.
Yeah,
So need to keep reminding them.
but it's a team. I think it's a team effort in film. Film's definitely a
Oh,
team.
yes, definitely, definitely, and
You know,
that's why
and
you only work with the same people, and then it's like, well, I think what you learn how to communicate with these people, and they learn how to communicate with you, so on and so forth, and you know what they can do great, and you encourage them to do the great stuff, and if they can't do something good, you find the other person who can do that thing good, but you haven't like pushed them to do something they can't do,
yeah, no. And I
just
think that's where, people kind of find their strengths and weaknesses, and we just excel each other, and like you do, right? Your people end up working together. You end up forming teams of producers, directors, and actors that kind of all put out a similar, put out a bunch of films, different times, but they all tend to work together because they have all spoken now the same language and they do work together. They
hmm
found success. So you have these little team ventures that kind of happen
but
in
then
cinema,
you
I
know
see.
if they're good, not if somebody's not right for the role, they're not right, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, I mean, have you ever had that where you've been like, this person isn't right mid film?
um yes, but it wasn't because of their performance. And so I just kind of wrote them out. I altered the script, and so they had actually less scenes. So it can go either way. You can be really good and get more scenes with some people, and then better be careful. But it wasn't because of their talent. It was just they were just really bad to other cast members, and it was kind of toxic. And
Yeah, and
so
I mean, at the end of the
they're
day, as
like,
the director, whatever, that set is
you're,
your set. You want people to say working for you, working for Ken Volok is a good experience. We want to go back to
Mhm.
another film.
Well, you don't want
That
your other actors to be uncomfortable because of the behavior of one. And so, like, I reshuffled the shooting schedule. Okay, what exactly do we need this person for? And we can cut out or have somebody else, get this narrative point across. And I think I was, yeah. But again, you have that flexibility when you're small too, because then there's not like the committee that thought they were going to be big off box office. Oh, but you can't get that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in Hollywood sometimes I mean, I hate to say it, but these incidents of uncomfortability get shuffled under the rug to finish the film. And that's why you hear about these stories 20 years later. Oh, this
Mhm.
happened on set and this happened because, they had to sign stuff. Now it's up, they can talk about it, but it's like everything got shuffled just to get the film out.
And again, too, it's really tough when you're young and inexperienced. Like, as if something happens and you're like, I mean, you have your whole life and career, you know what I mean? And, it's
Yeah,
just,
you just like, I just want to, I'm
you know
minding
what I
my
mean?
own here.
Yeah, I mean, like, you don't know. Like, somebody shoves their tongue down your throat or something, you know what I mean? Like, that wasn't supposed to happen. Like, but they're a big star, you know what I mean? And so, like, yeah, I mean, it's so many different things. So that's why you had to get rid of the toxic person.
Well, I mean, I think that's for the best. I mean, in
Yeah.
any movie, I mean, I can only commend that because there are people that would just be like, sometimes people
Yeah.
think profit only, or they just think about numbers and they don't think about the cast
Yeah.
or the people or
I
this or
mean,
that.
it is show business for sure. But I mean, it's a balancing act. Just like that Bruce saying, I'm being attacked by a monster. So, saw fit to attack me. Um, but it's a balancing act. You know what I mean? Um, it's to cut the car strings too tight, it snaps, and if it's too loose, you don't get any music.
Yeah, no, I get it. And we are just about time. I got a few more questions. Your newest film that is in post right now, do you have a timeline on when it's gonna be
I
out?
don't. It would make me much easier. Probably within a couple of months. I'm hoping. I just gotta find some music for it.
And then you're gonna self-distribute that? Is that gonna
I'm
distribution
gonna enter
deal?
into
How's it
festivals and give it some time out there, and then make a decision from there on what to do with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's fun. Like I said, what I saw, I liked a lot, and I look forward
Thank
to
you.
seeing the final product. Where can people online follow you? Where can they follow your career, what you're doing, what movies you're gonna be in
I'm
and doing
so
stuff?
like not good at that. I've just had my Facebook is pretty much. I have my personal page and then my actor page, and that yeah, I do have my name like domain name. I own kenvolok.com. I haven't done anything with it because I'm not a web designer, so I need to find somebody to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
Well,
mean, I just Facebook. Slightly on Instagram. Yeah.
well, very good. Like I said, look forward to seeing his final
I
stuff
don't know why
and
I look so dark. I think the sun went down during the midst of our conversation. And it's like, why is it so dark in here? The sun went
I know I got studio lighting, so I don't know. I put up the lamps, but yeah, but we were also it's 8:34 here. It's been dark for a little bit.
yeah.
But
Oh,
I do thank you for coming on. It's been great
thank,
talking to you
yeah,
and
I
getting
quite
to
enjoyed
talk
it as
about
well.
your stuff.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for watching. And as always, stay spooky, everyone. We're out of here.